Right.
It's rock and roll.
Hello. Oh, right. Hello, and welcome to sort of one of our weirder podcasts. So it's just me and Peden this time. Oh, fuck's sake! Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I've just been cut out of your game. One sec.
Really? Oh, okay. Yep, you just left.
Yeah,
Well,
lost connection.
can't have this. You're not allowed to leave without dying.
It's like take two. Right. I'm just gonna
Totally the first time. Let's do it.
Right. Hello, welcome to the Pixel Tavern sort of podcast. It's going to be a little bit different this time. Fortunately, Nick and Kurt weren't available to join us, so we're going to be doing just me and Peden while playing a bit of GTA. We're going to try and keep it podcast safe, so you can watch it you can listen to it without the footage. But we'll see how it goes.
That's the plan. So yeah. Oh, fuck you, Ron. Right.
Why haven't we heard from you? You don't like.
What was that?
Oh, Ron called me. All right. So
Oh, it's
GTA guy. It's fine. Ignore that. It didn't happen.
off to the greatest of starts.
Audio listeners, you'll love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
We're in Peden's lovely something car.
Monroe.
I don't know what it is.
by Monroe.
Monroe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Well,
actually
anyone
I
who's
think it's
played
Lamborghini
GTA
in real life.
It's a Lamborghini,
I
right?
think so.
Oh, fair enough. Anyway, let's get on to some topics. Otherwise, we just talk about what we're doing in the game and no one will have no idea what we're doing. So, we were first going to go on to PC games we're looking forward to, Peden. Anything you've got in mind?
So first up, Dishonored. Or Dishonored 2,
yeah.
to be more correct. I'm looking forward to seeing how that has developed from the first one.
Well, look, when I was watching E3, that was one of the most shown games, but they only ever showed the same footage.
Yeah. No.
So I lost interest in it before it was even hyped for me, but it does look good.
Did you ever play the original?
No, I've got it, but like most of my Steam library, it's not even been installed yet.
Well, I
Because that's
completed it about 3 times.
Oh, nice. Isn't it like it's like multiple choice sort of game, isn't it? You know, like where you can choose to be good or bad, and you become like stealthy and everything depending on what you do.
And it actually had an impact on the actual world and not the first one. So if you go through killing everyone, you find a lot more of these. You get a lot more rats and stuff around, but you also get these kind of like zombies almost, or like homeless zombies. Kind of weird. Been a while since I played it, but basically, yeah. So the more you kill, you get kind of more homelessness and kind of basically it's more of a dystopian future as you play the game.
Oh, okay.
But if you don't kill everyone and you're a bit more stealthy and tactical, and the world's a little bit less tricky. So actually, by you being a kind of a giant murderer, killing everything that lives, the game actually gets harder.
Isn't that what you do in all those kind of games?
It's the first time, yes. But it kind of intentionally goes against you. So I'm curious to see how 2 has developed that mechanic onwards, because in this case, you've got, in number 2, you've got 2 characters you can play as. The first one, Cortez, and then you've got Emily, I think it is, or Emilia, who's the little girl you're saving in number 1. She's
right.
now...
Oh, is that who the female character is?
She's like
nice.
the princess. So you were saving her in the first one, but you were framed wrongly for murder of the queen, who is also your lover.
Right.
Essentially, your character is the bodyguard in the first one, who then gets framed, sent to jail. This weird demon guy essentially basically gives you some powers. You can teleport around and things, and you find justice in whichever way you feel right.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, depending on how you play, it depends on what the boss is at the end as well.
Oh, you actually get like a completely different ending, sort of thing.
Yeah, you get a different ending, and also the way you... So, like, well, one of them, he's sort of just waiting for his death, and then the other one, he's actually wants to fight you.
Right. Oh, well, for anyone who's watching the YouTube video, I've been kicked out once again.
Yay! We'll keep talking.
Have I gotten out of the car and just like been killed or something?
No, you're still in the car.
Oh, okay, sweet. Well, anyway, we'll carry on with what we're talking about.
I'll drive back to the city.
Online terrorists. But yeah, the game that I'm looking most forward to, which is probably just from where I used to play Xbox 360, but I'm quite looking forward to Gears of War 4, even though I've not looked into it whatsoever. I saw like the release trailer, well, not the release trailer, sorry, the announcement trailer, and a few other bits and bobs. And yeah, you know, like as much as like Gears of War 3 was great, and then they made Gears of War Judgment, and it looked so bad I didn't even bother playing it. Gears of War 4, it looks like they've kind of gone back a bit, and gone like, okay, Gears of War 3 was good, let's carry on more of that. And I'm just happy it's coming to PC. Microsoft have got this whole thing lately of any game that releases on the Xbox will come to PC as well.
Okay.
Well, at least most of them, because, you know, they went back on that promise like 2 days after they said that was a promise, which is a common theme for Xbox, it seems.
Yeah, it's not correct.
I'm just looking forward to more chainsawing things, and you know, just more of the. It's just a really good mechanic shooter, and like I feel like there hasn't been one in a while that really dragged me into it. And maybe it won't be good. I mean, it's not made by Epic anymore, but to be fair, I think new developers can a lot of the times actually bring a fresh face to things. But
it depends on how much of a like fundamental background change there is in this game, because if the game is essentially the same game but it's been made prettier, different storyline, you can improve the mechanics. There's the existing base code which they can work with.
yeah,
It's a complete overhaul, new engine, new whatever, all the behind the scenes of the game. That's where they can have more chance of ruining it, I guess. They don't have a template which they can build upon.
yeah,
They just have the ideas that exist from it.
that's for true. Yeah, they've got to come up with some new stuff as well, because obviously each game kind of improved on the last. And if they don't do that, people are just going to go, oh, it's just a clone of Gears of War 3 sort of
It's
thing.
been so long since Gears of War 3 came out, they may not care.
That's true. People might just want Gears of War 3 again. Right. for anyone watching the YouTube video, I have actually got back in my car now, Peden. So
Okay.
wherever you are.
I was trying to go back to you, but I somehow gained attention from unwanted police.
Oh yeah, that might have been because of me.
Thanks.
I may have been shooting in some respect. But yeah, anything else you got in mind? I can't really think of that many games coming out in the next few months, which is a surprise, because normally like September to December is like the big season of games, really, isn't it?
What else is out? You've got Batman Telltale game, which I think's out already, but I haven't actually played it yet.
Yeah.
That looks really
yeah,
cool.
they've got first episode of it out.
I really want to. I haven't played Game bought it yet, but I want to see how they develop the storyline, because it'd be nice to have a strong story-based Batman game rather than
like action-based.
like
I can.
Batman Origins.
Yeah.
I haven't played Arkham Knight, so I'm not quite sure.
Don't bother.
That's what I've heard.
Wait, I see you. Didn't you? I think you're going to have to get in my car. Yours is looking a bit screwed. Sorry, but... Oh, wait, yeah, there's a lot of police after you.
Thanks for
You're welcome. I like the way none of them are after me, because, like, I respawned in. Oh, they're coming for you, Peden. Where are you? Oh. Like, Arkham Knight just kind of destroyed everything that they had built from making Arkham City and Asylum and even Origins, but I think we've spoken about this before, but yeah, I wouldn't bother repeating. You could probably get better games at the moment for probably the same price or less.
Maybe get it when it's a sale.
Oh, Arkham Knight, yeah, I mean, like, you know, as much as I didn't like it, I suppose if you do want to finish off the Arkham Asylum games, like, even though it's not a satisfying ending and it's not a satisfying story, guess it's, you know, you might still want to play it just for that story side of things, but yeah. Yeah, what else is coming out in the next few months? It's weird, for the first time ever in like, what, since like 2007, there isn't an Assassin's Creed game coming out.
That's true.
We're getting a movie, but not a game.
I'm kind of glad there isn't one coming out there.
Oh yeah, so am I. The last few have been fucking awful. Like, okay, Assassin's Creed 4 was pretty good, although in all honesty, it didn't really... I mean, I did enjoy it. I have played quite a bit of it, but yeah.
I think it's like anything. Like when you are getting, I know they improve the formula and they add new mechanics and story features, but when you're getting the same game over and over, the same kind of content of the universe, even if you're in a different location, it's still the same universe.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do, and it's nice sometimes to let a game breathe and be like, okay, we'll give this 3 years. We'll actually leave a team working on like the mechanics in the background, and then we'll come back to it.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, they can go to new IPs, potentially get new kind of gains to kill by making too many of them year on year.
Yeah.
And yeah, go from there. That's the issue with a lot of the big games.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it seems like a lot of companies don't really know when they've got a good franchise. They don't need to keep making constantly. Like if you look at Nintendo, the games that they make, the big games they make, like the Marios, the Zeldas, they only come out, like the main ones only come out like every 3 or 4 years. And when they do come out, people go mental for them. Like the latest Zelda game coming out is winning all these big awards and everything. And it's like, it looks phenomenal, and it's gotten every Zelda fan out there excited. Assassin's Creed could be that if it wasn't out every year, if it didn't just dilute its own. Because I mean, like, do you remember when the first one came out?
Yeah.
Like when you first played that,
yeah.
it was an it was an okay game. It was a bit broken, let's be honest. You know, like it was tedious in a lot of its side missions and all that jazz. But it was a playable game, and it had the potential. And then the second one came out a couple of years later, and it was great. And that's where that game could have become Zelda levels of popular.
True.
Instead, they went, hey, let's make as much money as possible. And then they just milked it for all it was worth. And they've really damaged that franchise. I mean, I reckon it would be a lot more popular if they'd only just, like, say Assassin's Creed 4 was the next game coming out.
Yeah.
That would be a well-timed sort of release. But not having, like, I mean, Christ, what are they on now? Like nearly 10?
Well, it's like say 9, 10 games, a book, and a short series, a movie coming, among other things, in the future. So it's pretty extensive library to them. Fair play to them for, like, what the hell you okay?
Oh,
fair play to them diversifying content into different cross-media platforms and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just sometimes a bit too much, and it'd be nice to have a bit of variety.
Yeah. And like, I think what annoys me as well, like, you've read a couple of the Assassin's Creed 3 books, haven't you?
Well, Assassin's Creed book. I've
Like,
read all the books, and then 3 is very different to the game.
yeah. But like, what annoys me is the one you told me about with where it's the guy you play in the third's father.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that story sounded 10 times more interesting than the one they actually did for the game.
True.
Why didn't they save it for the game? Like, it's almost like they felt the game didn't need or didn't require the extra story.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of content. It's okay. So for those who haven't read the Assassin's Creed 3 book, the Assassin's Creed 3 and 4 and the book gonna make the Kenway trilogy. So Assassin's Creed 3 is where you're in America and you're playing as Connor. Connor is the grandson of the lead protagonist of number 4 from Black Flag, and then the book is like essentially how the father becomes to be born as an assassin and raised as a Templar. For trying to avoid too many spoilers if you want to read the book. It's been out for ages, admittedly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had it for years.
So
Not
the whole thing is like, so the father gets killed by his Templars. The Templars take the son and raise him as a Templar. He finds out that he's an assassin, but he loves the Templars, so he kills the traitorous Templars for purity, and then he becomes the head honcho for a bit, or one of the big head honchos. And then you end up fighting Connor. So you actually end up facing your son in a fight. So Connor kills the father.
Oh yeah, that's in the third one.
So that's
as well,
the main bit in the game. But in the book, you actually end up fighting. Like, you end up seeing a lot of his storyline, like, leading up to that point where you fight the son, and he inevitably loses. You see him kind of the redemption of the Templars. So you see Templars on a slightly more,
like more human level sort of thing, rather than just being.
Then that links in. So basically, the father who gets killed in the beginning of the book is the lead protagonist in number 4, and then you get the book character. Then that book essentially bridges the game to 3, where you have Connor, who's nowhere near as developed of a character. Like,
no, it was so boring. Yeah.
And the story is much more linear. So you start with him as a farmer in Bristol.
Oh, yeah, I forgot it's in Bristol, isn't it? Because
he's like Swansea, and he goes to Bristol for, like, sell stuff from the farm to make money for the farm, so on. But then ends up getting in trouble, becoming a pirate. Big shipwrecked when he runs across an assassin. He steals some assassin stuff. Eventually comes across the assassins after a while, and as a reason in the game he's a bit more roguish. But in the game, you start off about a third into the book with a shipwreck. So there's this whole like crazy storylines and like love interests and.
Why wasn't that in the game? That sounds like a way better opening.
Yeah,
than
they end
what
up flashing back
used.
to that point and being like, oh hey, here is the world. This is what my life used to be. Here's my parents. His house getting burnt down. Blah blah blah. Yeah. All those kinds of things, and it was.
Yeah.
I preferred this to how the story unfolded. It's just because it's such a big kind of adventure for him. Even in the book, he had a couple of flashbacks, something like, "Oh, there's this woman I met ages ago." La la la, like kind of side stories and stuff. But it was still a pretty linear way of explaining it. It just you cared about the character more, basically. That's
Yeah, like that, like because that was the problem. Like, you know how like after Assassin's Creed 3, everyone was like, "Oh God, the future stuff is getting a pain in the ass," so they got rid of it pretty much completely. It feels like they got rid of the story at the same time. Like Assassin's Creed 4, I do not care about the story. I've not really paid attention to it, and like it feels like a shame.
It's the same
that
with
it
3,
is
really.
like
They got Connor, but they haven't
Sure.
developed him as a character very well. Because he's got quite an interesting, obviously, being brought into the world by a Templar and then becomes an assassin and all this, and they don't really. There's no decent story for him. He's not a very well developed character. He's and then Hamish, I think it's Hamish, the father, is given not really much light in the game because he's not his game, and in the book he gets like a crazy like life. If you can make the book into a game and actually do it justice in terms of storytelling, damn, that would be awesome. Like I would love that game. You start with him as a boy, like, and this house being attacked and everyone being killed and like all this like essentially drama and character, and then you're being like taken in by the father's Templar friend who's actually betrayed him and blah blah blah, so on. And it was much more epic and intense and worthwhile.
Yeah, actually a more like in-depth story that actually draws you in the characters more.
Yeah. Like, imagine that like Uncharted storyline, but in Assassin's Creed world. Like that in that depth of storytelling.
Like Uncharted, the good thing about the story in that was it was a bit like the Indiana Jones movies. Like it's more about the adventure rather than the story as such. But the story is still interesting.
But the story's told in a much more fulfilling.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the fourth one. I could go on about the fourth one for days.
I know. But we've got an entire podcast about the fourth one. Exactly. And I cut out about 20 minutes.
That's true. Yeah. How long was that? That podcast was originally like an hour and a half.
It came out 15 minutes long, but it was recorded a lot longer than that.
Nice. Yeah, I suppose we'll get off Assassin's Creed. We'll talk about that for a while. What other PC games? I really had, Watch Dogs 2. That was something else I was thinking about. Did you ever play the first of that?
I haven't played the first one. I've seen like videos and I've looked at it online in various ways. I don't know. I liked the idea of it, and there was lots of really cool mechanics to it. I just didn't really feel like it grabbed me enough. Maybe it was just the issue of the kind of those sorts of games being quite popular at the time and there being a lot of them.
Yeah.
I just couldn't really.
Like for me, it was because in fact I remember actually buying that when you were in the shop with me. Actually, that's one of the rare times you were down in Bristol after uni, basically. But you're in a plane. I've been trying to figure out where you were.
Too slow, bitches.
But yeah, I bought it kind of on a whim because I was like, I always thought it looked good. And then the reviews came in. You kind of had the reviews that were like, yeah, it's okay, and the other reviews were like, no, it's the spawn of Satan. It must be terrible. And
it's the issue, I think, compared to Assassin's Creed when it's it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, that was the bad thing about it, really.
Wasn't it essentially described as like it was advertised as like GTA, but with Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, I think that's kind of how they were trying to make it out, sort of thing.
And that's kind of what I guess it didn't kill it. It did quite well, but that's what kind of made it lose interest for me. Is that it was trying to like, yes, I can understand you want like an open world sandbox and you can do all this crazy stuff and hacking and spying on people, and like I said, it's like Assassin's Creed, because you've got a vague free running element to it. I don't know, it just didn't really grab me enough to justify me spending 30 quid on it.
Yeah.
When it first came out.
I mean, like when I eventually got it, it was about £9, so it was kind of like, I don't really pay.
Quite a while after.
But like, I think the problem with it is they advertised it to the level that it just was never going to be. It was, you know how every generation there is a game that tries to make out that it's going to do all this crazy shit that you're like, oh my god, this is like the next generation of games, and it doesn't actually do anything like that. It was that game, but if they just advertised it as what it actually was, I think it would have done a lot. It would have been more popular. I mean, it did sell, obviously, but it wasn't popular sort of thing. People ended up hating it and trading it and everything. That's why you can get it so cheap. But like the actual core gameplay is pretty good. It's like it is basically a bit of GTA 5 in a more serious world. The missions were quite interesting. There was some good variation to it. And the car chases, man! I've recorded a few on my PS4, but just they're just amazing. They end up getting so crazy and out of hand, and the way you get out more interesting than say something like GTA 5, where you kind of just gun them down and keep moving. Whereas in that you would use like hacking street lights or lifting up drawbridges and stuff so they couldn't follow you, that sort of stuff, and that's what made it more fun. And it just feels like if they just advertised that better, it would have probably been a much better game. And like I remember, because I went to what they're called, Eurogamer, at the time when it was pre-release sort of thing, and they had a special demo for it there, where you didn't actually get to play it, but it had like one of the developers playing it. And I watched it and I was like, this looks absolutely terrible. It looks so boring. They didn't do anything. All of the interesting stuff that they put into the actual the early footage seemed to be missing. I was like, okay, that was the most boring tech demo I'd ever seen. So I'm surprised I ended up even buying it. But but
£9, what are you gonna argue?
Yeah, exactly. The second one is it looks like they've kind of brought in a few more of the promises they originally gave. Like, for example, in the original one, they made it look like there was going to be free running, not quite to the scale of Assassin's Creed, but a hell of a lot more than there was.
From the advertising, that's essentially what it made it out to be.
Yeah. Whereas this one, you can do like proper free running, like jumping off the buildings and stuff, which I think will add a lot to it, because although it had all these it was like a really high city sort of thing. I think it's Chicago, the first one. And really tall buildings, big skyscrapers and everything, and it didn't really feel like the game had any verticality to it, because you couldn't really get off ground floor unless you were inside a building. And I think this new one is going to add a lot to it that will make it more interesting. But yeah, Watch Dogs 2, I'll be playing that at some point. I will not be paying full price for it, but if it does badly like the first one in popularity, I'll wait 3 months and it'll be 10 quid.
You always look at Kingwin and things as well.
Look at what, sorry?
Where you can buy just the codes for the...
Oh, yeah.
Installation codes.
Sorry.
I think I can get really cheap that way.
Yeah. I use CD keys. They're always damn cheap for that. But that's how I got... because I got Arkham Knight the day it released, but I got it with the DLC as well. It was only 25 quid for all of it. I was like, damn.
Yeah. No problems from Lauren. She's just like, okay, we buy us, please.
Yeah.